What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I am here. Today's day 13? I think it is day 13 of training camp, and our second joint practice against the Bears. It is the final joint practice before Saturday's game. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. As usual, I got a couple articles from Alain Poupart, however you say his first name. And that's really about it, because, so let's see. But he starts with, let's go ahead and that's my Twitter. And then he starts with, because Brian Flores had a press conference today, a media availability. So we are going to go ahead and get into what he had to say first. Flores Thursday morning Chicago takeaways. Before it says he had a conference. Let's see. First question regards the secondary, and Flores says he likes having all the starts working at this time. The starters, I think, is what he meant to say. Tough, physical downhill player. That's how Flores described new inside linebacker Benardrick McKinney. And as long as he can stay healthy, he does look like he is going to be an impactful player in the run game. Maybe not. He's not quite so great, it seems, in the passing game, but hopefully they don't even use him very much there. Flores says Liam Eichenberg got banged up a little bit yesterday and will not practice today. He's done a good job in camp, so apparently he's got a bit of an injury. Javon Holland doing a lot of good things from a fundamental standpoint. He's showing up a little bit. Absolutely. And look, I have to say that even though I still would have done the draft differently, I would have prioritized differently, and I likely would not have selected Javon Holland there. I actually do really like the kid and the player, and he's showing a lot of promise and potential, and that's good. And we're certainly gonna, especially if they do play him, and if he is the starter, we're gonna need him to perform. So it's good to hear. The list of players who won't work today also includes Devontae Parker, Will Fuller, Albert Wilson, Hunter Long, and Brandon Jones. So not really a surprise there, but and I get it. Like we talked about this, on Reasons on Reasons show yesterday or whatever. And I get not rushing him along back from injury, and I get that he's a veteran and it's not going to take him long to catch up and everything. But I don't know, bro. At the end of the day, I would always rather have my guys out there and getting, chemistry and cohesion and mastering the playbook and just getting the reps and stuff like that. As long as, obviously as long as, they're smart about it and don't get guys hurt, right? But to be fair, I don't know where his injury is, but I'm pretty sure he could practice. I just would like to see him out there, but it is what it is. And it's fine. It's fine. Because as long as he comes back for week 2, obviously he's not going to be there for week 1 because he's still suspended. He's finishing out his suspension, but as long as he comes back for week 2 and for the rest of the season he performs and helps us win games, then fuck it, I don't really give a shit. Let's see. Where was I? Flores says going against the talented Bears front is good for the Dolphins offensive line. Yeah, and we talked about this too yesterday on the show. I totally get that going up against good competition obviously helps. I'm just again, I'm not sold on the players on this offensive line yet. I'm not convinced that they are going to be the answer. And the best you've gotten from really any of these guys, and certainly from the totality to this point, is just maybe average. I do like Robert Hunt moving into guard. I think that's a solid move, and I think that he will perform at a high level there. But I have massive concerns for the rest of the offensive line, especially because injuries are going to happen, man. And so, we'll see how it plays out. Hopefully, look, they finally proved me wrong on something, and something major, when it came to the Xavier Howard situation. So prove me wrong again, please. I would love to be proven wrong yet again. But until they do, look, at the end of the day, until they do, until they prove it, until they show it, until, there is record to be written, right? Until games are done and there's stats and there's tape to look at, right? Like, you know, and there's wins and losses, right? Like, you know, I mean, unfortunately, the track record and the history and the information that I have to use to make projections, you know, doesn't really give me a lot of warm and fuzzies. And I'm not convinced that they picked the right guys for, you know, these spots, right? You know, I'm not convinced yet on Austin Jackson or Solomon Kinley or Michael Dieter for sure, or Liam Eichenberg, right? Like, I'm not convinced with Skura or Tom or any of these motherfuckers, Jesse Davis. I'm not convinced. Robert Hunt playing at right guard is the one I feel the best about. And I feel like he's probably going to play it at a high level. But after him, I feel really not good about the rest of it. So they need to prove that to me. I'm not going to just look, see, and this is the difference between a person like me and a homer. Because what a homer will do is a homer will be like, yeah, but I'm just going to believe that they're going to be great. Okay, dude, I get it. Like, I understand that you want to be optimistic, and I'm hoping that they prove me wrong. Like I want to be proven wrong. Who tells you that they want to be proven wrong on anything? Let alone when it's something that they're predicting that's bad, right? Like, I want to be proven wrong so much, but I'm not going to just, like, you know, say definitively that it's going to be, you know, a masterpiece and a work of art and spectacular when the evidence, the facts, and the reality don't paint that picture. You feel me? So and until they do, but that's not me. I don't change that. I don't have a say in that. I only evaluate the facts. So my commentary, my evaluation only changes when the facts change. That's why, you know, I'm super happy to that's part of why I'm super happy to change my evaluation on the Xavier Howard thing. One, because I have to, and the facts, or one, because I love that he's here, but two, because the facts dictate that, right? So I'm not going to just, like, you know, like, the facts dictate that. They came to an agreement. He's going to be here at least for this season. Now, next season, that's still up in the air, but I follow the facts. So until this offensive line shows me definitively on tape, right, that they can play like a, you know, above average line, I'm not going to believe it because the evidence doesn't suggest that, right? So anyway. Regarding his conversation with Tua at practice, Flores says he'll keep that confidential, though he does say he passes along coaching points to every player. Because apparently they had a little discussion, I guess, on the sideline. Whatever. Yeah, I mean, I don't care. That's kind of their job, right? Like, they should be having conversations. The practice Wednesday featured a lot of unexpected changes because of the lightning delay, and Flores said it was great for the Dolphins to serve as preparation if something like that happens in the regular season. Well, and we obviously know that is something that can and has historically happened. We just had it, was it last year? I think it was last year. Wasn't it during, like, the Bills game, the first Bills game or something? We had crazy weather delays, so, like, yeah, fuck. I mean, Flores jokes he was a bouncer on that play after Allen Hurns exchanged words with Bears defensive back Teez Tabor when Tabor hit Hurns after he caught a pass over the middle. By the way, there was apparently some skirmishes today, which I'm sure we'll talk about. Flores liked the tempo of practice yesterday. Jalen Phillips is working on a limited basis as he works his way back from his injury. He had some good snaps yesterday. Hopefully he has more good snaps today. Obviously, because he's a player that we are definitely also going to be highly relying on. Yeah, so now let's go ahead and move into his observations from the Dolphins joint practice for today. Yeah, so let's do it. Highlights, lowlights, and observations. Joining the list of Dolphins players not practicing Thursday were rookie first-round pick Jalen Phillips, so he didn't practice at all today, who had returned Wednesday after missing a week with an injury. Also out was guard Duval Quiros Neto. So for some reason, Nito is out as well, although that obviously is less impactful overall because he's kind of buried on the depth chart. Whereas Jalen Phillips is expected to, play a prominent role. After Coach Brian Flores said before practice that rookie second-round pick Liam Eichenberg was out, he comes out to practice but only did a position drill early before watching the end of practice with a Gatorade towel over his head. So he's got some kind of minor injury, maybe, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, look, the reports were that he was inconsistent and stuff, uncomfortable and inconsistent at that right tackle spot. Brian Flores had even said that, he doesn't seem comfortable or ready to go because he's primarily played on the left, not the right, and that he's got to adjust to how, the opposite. Instead of leading with your left foot, you lead with your right foot, right? So, and he had a rough day of practice at left guard yesterday. So, maybe, I don't know, right? But apparently he has some kind of injury. We shall see. But look, and again, though, although the injury situation certainly has improved, we've had significant amounts, even though they've been minor, for the most part to this point. We've had more injuries to this point in training camp than I would like, because you're gonna have injuries at some point. And I definitely believe that was one of the reasons why the Dolphins overachieved last season, was because for the majority of the season, they remained one of the healthier teams in the league, right? In addition, of course, to the fact that they had to play decimated teams like the 49ers, right? So the Dolphins were healthy and the 49ers were decimated. There's not a chance in hell we win that 49ers game if that wasn't the case, right? If they were fully healthy, I mean, even if we were still fully healthy, pretty much fully healthy, but if they were at full capacity, there's no way that would have fucking happened. So, we better hope that the Dolphins this year aren't one of the teams that have a bunch of injuries. And so far, in that regard, we have not started off very well. So that is concerning to me. With Eichenberg out, second-year player Solomon Kindley took his spot at the starting left guard. So it is good to see, that Kindley has risen back up. I mean, obviously this injury apparently has something to do with that. So who knows, if Eichenberg wasn't injured, maybe he'd still be at left guard and Kindley would still be with the second team. And Eichenberg having an injury would have explained why he also didn't take second team reps yesterday when he got, benched, right? So, I don't know, man. Like I said, bro, this entire offensive line has so much to prove to me before I'm going to have any confidence in saying that I have confidence in them, right? Like, look, and it's great that Tua was second in the league at evasion last year, and he did that at 60% health. And he's got good pocket presence. Those things are great, but I don't want that to have to be a necessity, right? If he does it every so often, because, every so often, they get, the opposing team gets some pressure, okay. But I don't want that shit to be happening all the fucking time, because then, man, do you run the risk of getting him injured, right? And so, anyway, let's continue on. On defense, Jason McCourty was the first one to take first-team snaps as the deep safety. Wide receiver Mac Hollins was wearing a long Gatorade towel around his waist for the second day in a row. I don't know what that means. But okay. Tight end Adam Shaheen got into a brief shoving match with linebacker Khalil Mack after a one-on-one blocking drill, and Mack was talking smack after the two were separated. Cool. I don't know why you would decide to go up against Khalil Mack, but hey, man, good for you, Shaheen. Let's see. On the next rep, Sethan Carter threw linebacker Travis Gibson to the ground, and the two later were in each other's face. This practice is shaping up to be a lot more contentious than the first one, and it most definitely played out that way. The first snap of 11 on 11s was unfortunately an indicator for what was not a particularly impressive day for the offense. Well, that's not good. On that play, Tua Tagovailoa goes back to pass but can't find an open receiver and eventually has to scramble. Well, okay. It's funny because before I even got into this, apparently Omar Kelly was saying that the Dolphins did not have a very good practice, but apparently everybody else, including Alan Pupar, was saying that it was a good day. Well, he just said the offense didn't have a very good day, so let's see. I'm actually just reading through this for the very first time too, so I haven't pre-read this article. Big day for Van Ginkel. Okay, linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel was very, very noticeable in this practice, and it starts early when he meets a Bears running back at the line on 11-11 on the opposite field. AVG later will bat a pass at the line of scrimmage and get pressure on Andy Dalton. Yeah, and so that's so I was gonna say Andy Dalton apparently seemed to have his struggles against the Dolphins' first team defense. Look, I don't think Andy Dalton, I've never really thought Andy Dalton was all that great, to be honest, so I'm not really worried about him as a quarterback. I actually would be personally more worried about Justin Fields, because I think he hasn't proven to be as, mediocre as Andy Dalton in the league yet because he hasn't taken any snaps, but I do think the kid has a lot more potential and certainly could outplay him. Because again, I just don't think Andy Dalton's all that good. And the reports so far that I have seen, right, from the Twitter stream and the Bleacher Report stream and whatever, Justin Fields apparently did have a good day today. But, he was going up against the second team, which doesn't diminish, his performance, really. He still, from his end, right, he still did good things, but it is fair to add the context that it was against the second team. All right, quick aside on Bears quarterback Justin Fields. He made some really eye-opening throws, including one early where he threw down the right sideline while rolling out to his left. On two plays not far apart, Jacoby Brissett took a sack. It's in quotes because they're not actually allowed to sack him, right? But yeah, we put it, and he mentions this. We put it in quotation marks because the plays ended before the quarterback is hit, and he was clear about that. Next was a red zone drill that saw Tua loft a pretty touch pass, though it could have been a tad farther ahead, down the left sideline to Mike Gesicki, who was ready to make the catch before Tease Tabor knocked the ball out of his hands. And, those types of things, though it could have been a tad farther ahead, right? Like, so as a matter of fact, that pass earlier in training camp, that the first one of padded practices, that deep Albert Wilson pass, it was slightly behind him, but those are the types of things that it was still in a good position, and obviously a good position for him to make the catch. But, those are just little tiny things that get cleaned up over time, right? And especially, but see, and this is part of the reason why I want Will Fuller out there, though, right? Is because while he was still 97, 98% on target, that last 2% or whatever, could make the play that much better in a lot of cases, right? So what I mean by that is that last 2% could be placed, or could be the difference between the defender being able to get his hand in there and maybe break it up, or the difference between the receiver being able to catch it in stride and continue running or make a move or whatever, right? So, prevent the receiver from having to make an adjustment with his body. But those things get smoothed out. That is by no means an issue, right? Let's see. On the other field, Justin Coleman returned the favor by breaking up a pass in the Dolphins' end zone. Coleman later met a Bears running back in the backfield on a running play. The free agent acquisition seems firmly entrenched as the slot corner and has been strong in camp. Malcolm Brown moves the pile, and this is what he's supposed to be, the thumper, right? The short line, or the short yardage goal line, and, hard yards kind of running back. Malcolm Brown was the most impressive running back for the Dolphins on this day because because he was the one who consistently showed the ability to move a pile in goal line situations. And I mean, to be fair, the only other running back that's kind of like that is Garrett Dokes, but he's got a lot of work to do to you know, he's very much a project player. You're not going to see that so much out of Gaskin and Ahmed, right? Like Tua. So continuing on, Tua threw a touchdown pass to a wide open Jakeem Grant after rolling right. Noah Igbenogany has had his struggles well documented, so let's give him props for some great coverage against wide receiver Chris Lacey on an incompletion from Fields. Good job, kid. You're still a million light years away from where you need to be, but congratulations, you get your credit where it is deserved. Tua had about a 20-yard touchdown pass down the middle to tight end Adam Shaheen, a play where linebacker Austin Calitro had good coverage and even might have had an interception had he bothered to even turn his head around instead of simply looking at Shaheen the whole way. So that's probably another situation where the ball placement actually could have been a bit better, right? Because if the defender would have got his head around, identified the ball, well, I don't know this dude's catching ability, you know, or how his hands are. But in a lot of cases, you know, a lot of defenders, if they're able to do that, could come up with the interception. And that could be prevented just all around by having your ball placement in a little bit different place, right? But again, things that get hammered out over time, right? And again, that's part of the reason why I want Will Fuller out there and even some of these other wide receivers, because the more you get, the more reps you get with each other, the more you just master those little things, right? Anyway, Tua had a completion to Mac Hollins near the goal line, nullified by a holding penalty, though we couldn't make out the guilty player, and they were not announcing them. So probably somebody on the offensive line, though. After Cole Kmet caught a pass near the sideline from Andy Dalton, safety Eric Rowe laid his shoulder into him and sent him to the ground. Kmet responded by shoving Rowe in the back after getting up, and that brought players from both teams together. It was the most intense of the altercations on that day, though Rowe kind of laughed about it afterward. Yeah. Yeah, so it was a chippy day, so that's fun, right? This doesn't happen very often, but Xavier Howard was beaten by wide receiver Javon Wims in single coverage to catch a pass downfield from Andy Dalton. Can't be perfect, but clearly though, you saw a noticeable difference as soon as Xavier Howard started practicing again, and he started making plays. You're right, the defense stopped getting beat like as much and as bad just all around in general, right? So obviously he was a massive boon to that secondary. In a series of one-on-one pass rushing drills between Bears defenders and Dolphins offensive linemen, there were some good and bad performances by Miami. The standouts here, Jesse Davis, Adam Pankey, and Robert Hunt, while Austin Jackson and Solomon Kinley had their issues. Like I said, bro, this offensive line is not going to get credit from me where they don't deserve it yet. You know, there are some things that are somewhat encouraging, I guess, from... but I just got to keep it real. None of it's really encouraging because again, I don't think, you know, I don't think these guys, Robert Hunt is the only one that I feel good about. The rest of them, I just don't really, until they show me something to make me feel good, man. Like, I don't know what to say, bro. And if people want to call me a hater for that, then I'm sorry. Then I'm not sorry. You know, then it is what it is, bro. Call me a fucking hater. But like, you know, they got to prove it to me, right? Like, I mean, think about it. Like, do you really go about your life, like, you know, just unquestionably trusting people? In general, right? Like, no, they got to prove it to you. They got to earn your trust. They got to gain some trust, right? So, and in a job, right? If they're performing any task, do you just automatically assume that they're going to be great and just fucking leave it there? No, they got to prove it to you, right? Like, I mean, sure, if they come with a sterling reputation, yeah, then you might think that, but they don't have a sterling reputation. Right? So you get what I'm saying here. So they got to prove it to me, man. And I'm sorry, but they're not going to get that credit from me until they prove it. And I'm like that with everybody, right? Like, I think Tua, I've been telling people, I don't have a problem with Tua, right? I think his success this year is going to be a lot more tied to the offensive line performance, the running game, etc., than his performance. I think that he's going to be fine. I think that he's a great kid, a good leader, puts in the work. I think he's got enough athleticism. Is he the best, athlete? No. There are a ton of quarterbacks out there that are more athletic. But he's got enough. He can make the plays, right? Like, I'm not worried about his downfield. He's healthy now. Like, so it's not him. But he still has to prove it too, right? Like, so, I'm consistent all the way around. In another 7-on-7 drill, everything Tua threw was underneath the coverage, including a low throw that Mike Gesicki couldn't catch. It's not the last time that would happen on this day. So there's a little bit of rough, right? Starting another 11-on-11, Gesicki makes the catch of the day when he gives us one of those patented grabs, reaching out with his right hand to complete a reception from Tua. Real quick, I just want to mention it. I don't know if he talks about it in here, but there was a lot of hype being made about a one-on-one drill with Waddle and one of the Bears defensive backs, and a lot of people were characterizing it as that he just blew him away, like with his speed, right? And like as if he just took off down the field and just dusted him, right? It's the only reason why I'm bringing this up and pushing back is simply because it's just not the right framing. Now, shout out to Reason, because he highlighted what it really is. It's the dude's quickness, his agility, his route running, his twitchiness, right? Because it wasn't the play wasn't just like a go route or a double move to a go route or maybe a deep crosser or anything like that, right? It was like how to explain this, because I'm not very good with the X's and O's kind of thing. Like, I never played football for a team. I never had to learn a playbook or anything like that. I've just played a lot of backyard football, right? So but anyway, so he runs out a little bit. He makes a move like he's going to go to the outside, and then quickly makes a move to the inside, and it turns into a bit of a little slant crosser, right? So but it was that twitchiness, that shift, right? By the way, and he looks good, right? So that's good too, and that's good because at one point he did have a compression sleeve on that leg, so he does look healthy and he does look fine. Let's hope he stays that way. And part of how I want to ensure that he stays that way is they don't use him on special teams. But anyway, let's see. Tua comes back later with a nice completion of Robert Foster on a slant. Rowe makes a great defensive play to break up a long pass from Andy Dalton. Tua throws the ball away when he can't find a receiver, and then badly misses with a downfield pass to a wide open Jakeem Grant, who can't adjust to the underthrown ball. So, some ups, some downs, and it is what it is, right? Like I said, I don't get emotionally invested until it actually starts counting, right? Once we get to the first week of the season, then I'm going to start, being super excited or super upset, depending on what, or, somewhere in between, depending on what I see on the field, right? So, and depending on what happens in live action bullets or live action games with live bullets, right? With, a team that's trying to beat you, right? Like, and going full speed, right? Yeah. So I reserve my emotional investment until that time. Let's see. Wide receiver Kirk Merritt's mini slump continues as he fails to catch a low but catchable pass from Jacoby Brissett. So Merritt's had a couple rough days. Emmanuel Ogbah shines. That's good. Because he hasn't exactly made a ton of noise. He's had a few plays throughout training camp. I'm not saying he hasn't. He definitely has. But he hasn't exactly been, making a ton of noise. So let's have a good day from Emmanuel Ogbah. That's good to see. There are sacks everywhere in an 11-11 period on both fields, with Emmanuel Ogbah and Christian Wilkins getting them for the Dolphins, and Angelo Blackson getting one for the Bears against Tua. So again, some good, some bad, some good for our defense, But you know, and it seems to me that in these practices against the Bears, they've primarily been defensive days, right? So what that tells me is that, and this could be a little bit of a foreshadowing for the game on Saturday. So, you know, let's keep this in mind as we watch that game, that it could be defensive heavy, and that, you know, the defensive units on these teams may be their better units. And I think that is the case. I think as it stands right now, the defensive side of the ball for the Bears and the Dolphins are where they're going to be hanging their hat. And the offensive sides of the ball really need to improve, right? And need to step up and show some things. I absolutely do think that is the case. Cornerback Tino Ellis comes close to a spectacular interception against Justin Fields when he dives in front of the intended receiver, but can't make the catch as he's going to the ground. You got to make the catch, man. You got to make the catch, right? Because look, and I talked about a lot of Tua's would-be interceptions last year, right? A lot of those would-be interceptions would have been interceptions if the defender just knew how to fucking catch the ball, right? So, you know, same thing goes for our defenders, bro. You got to catch those balls, man. You got to fucking make that shit into it. You got to make the other team, you know, don't give them a break. Don't give them a break. Don't let them luck out because you don't know how to catch the ball, right? Anyway, Tua has his best throw of the day, some 15 yards to his left when he hits Jalen Waddle on an out pattern just beyond the reach of two Bears defenders. In a goal line period, a muffed handoff exchange between Tua and Myles Gaskin leaves the ball on the ground, and Mack recovers for the Bears, punctuating the play with a spike. Well, that's not very good. I mean, look, you know, the running game apparently had some decent plays today, but that's obviously not what you want, especially in a goal line situation, right? When you're trying to put 7 on the board. So, because in a real game situation, that could be a killer, right? That could be a killer. So, let's see. Tua tries to hit Grant on a short slant in the end zone, but defensive back Jalen Johnson goes through Grant, tips the ball, and comes up with the interception. Grant asks officials for a defensive pass interference call, but he won't get one even though he might have had a case. So, obviously, Grant had a touchdown pass earlier in this breakdown. I saw a lot of people in the streams or whatever and on Twitter like shitting on Grant because, you know, he tipped the ball and it got intercepted. But the way Alan Poupard describes it, it sounds like the defensive player ran through him, made a good play on the ball, had a good break on the ball. And, you know, so I think some people just really love, I mean, it's true. It's a fact. Some people just have players that they just love to shit on, right? A lot of people just love to shit on Tua, which I think is stupid and unfair. So, I mean, is it fair to say that you do have some, you know, concerns and that he does need to show some things? Yeah, sure, right? Like, one of my biggest concerns with him is his long-term health, right? And the longevity of his career because of that, right? And does he absolutely need to show improvement from last year and in certain areas? Of course he does. But on the other hand, because I am a rational person who looks at everything, I'm also going to tell you that it's reasonably going to happen, at least from the health perspective. And he certainly has a much better chance. And if he doesn't do those things this year, you're going to give the credit that's credited to the offensive line, of course, but whatever you know, blame he deserves, he will get that too, or credit for his success, right? So you know, you gotta look at the full picture here. Let's see. Agba gets to Dalton again for what would have been a second sack. This was a good practice for the defensive end. Tua tries a short touchdown pass to Foster, then has 2 negative plays when he's forced to throw the ball into the ground with no open receiver, and then scrambles out of the pocket before flipping the ball over the hand of Gaskin and out of bounds before he meets a Chicago defender near the goal line. Let's just hope it's a play that never occurs in a regular season game. Well, and, you know, obviously you'd rather get those things out now in practices, but that's some of the stuff that I'm talking about, right? Like, he does, right? And he has, it's true, right? Even back in Alabama, he's had moments where he's held onto the ball too long. So that's something he's got to get better at, right? And look, his decision making last year, and this is why I made that video about, all his would-be interceptions, was not as great as what people said it was. It's true, and it's just a fact. But the context of that was, one, his health, and being only at 60% health obviously had something to do with that. And then, the rest of the circumstance of when he was inserted into the game as the starter, not having a full grasp of the playbook yet, the stuff that we know about, Chan Gailey not really, being, on having Tua's back there and helping to design plays, and, and so the coaching staff in some ways kind of held him back, right? Like, so all of that is context for a reason why, but it still doesn't change the reality that there were many plays in which he made bad decisions. So he does, but does that mean that he can't do it? No, of course not, because he has shown the ability in the past to do it. He just has to, that's one of the things that he has to do better this year, right? So when people say, I do push back on a bit, when people say, bring up his 11-5 touchdown to interception ratio and say that he was great at making decisions last year, because that's not totally the case. Is that like his fault, and is he a bust because of it? No. Well, some of it's his fault, right? But some of it's not his fault, right? And so that's the full context. Do I expect him to be better this year? Abso-fucking-lutely I do, right? And so, but we have to, that is an area that from last year he does need to improve on. All right. Gesicki goes low to catch a Tua pass in the end zone, and the first official rules a touchdown before two other officials come in to rule the ball had hit the ground. Well, that's unfortunate. The Dolphins had a hard time scoring touchdowns on this drill, while the Bears are scoring almost at will on the other side against the Miami defense, whether with Dalton or Fields at quarterback. So that's a little bit concerning too, right? Because that means our defense is getting beat, but our offense is not putting it in the end zone, at least in today's practice and these situations, right? So, this whole team definitely has a lot to prove and work on. It's another day of good work for the Dolphins against an opponent, but if we're scoring at home in the number of positive plays, it's hard not to come to the conclusion that the Bears won this practice. So there you have it. Like I said, unfortunately, I don't have the resources and means to give you, the Miami Herald and Sun Sentinel articles and stuff like that to give you at least another person's perspective. But there you have it. So it seems like it was overall a defensive day, but it also seems like the Bears won the day from Alan Pupar's perspective. So there you have it. That's what I got for you, and we'll see, man. I'm not sure if there's anything tomorrow. There's no joint practice, so I know that if there is anything, it's probably just gonna be either a scrimmage or maybe just a walkthrough, if there's anything tomorrow. If not, then we just simply have the game against the Bears on Saturday, and our first preseason game, we're only going to expect to see starters in for a couple series, somewhere between 1 to 3 series, I would say, for both sides, for both teams. So it's going to be a very small sample size, but it's going to be the first real look on field against another opponent that we will get the vast majority of us will get to see, right? And so it'll be our first real look. Is it going to be definitive on how things are going to play out throughout the season? No, not yet, but it is another important, massively important puzzle piece. And I'm super excited about it. And obviously, like I said, for this game, I'm definitely going to just be joining in on Reason's live show, Finside the NFL. So, jump over there and check that out. When we get to the regular season, most likely I'll do my own live streams for the actual, for the regular season games. But for this game and maybe the entirety of the preseason, I'll be joining in on his. And I mean, at the end of the day too, I can join in on his even though I do my own live stream. I don't necessarily have to fucking just, you know, I can do my, you know, because I can just bring it up on another tab and I can monitor the chat section and stuff a little bit and pop in from time to time. Anyway, so, but join me there because I'm going to go hang out with him and those guys because I really have been enjoying myself and my time in that community. And I will be again today. I will be getting on his show or, you know, watching his show and probably getting on the panel and chopping it up with the guys. I've been really enjoying it. So shout out to Reason and everything. I've had such a great time, and thank you for having me on. So yeah. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna get out of here. Hope you guys appreciate my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comments section. Of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.